Hello, and thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Bite-Sized Cybercrime, the podcast where we discuss cybercrimes and cybersecurity news. This week we'll be talking about a recent data breach at the fast-casual bakery cafe, Panera Bread. The Shiny Hunters ransomware group targeted Panera recently for an extortion attack. I say extortion because it's not actually clear in the reporting whether ransomware specifically was involved, and Panera doesn't seem like it really had any notable outages recently, at least none that I had heard about. It seems like in this case no ransomware was deployed, and instead data was scraped from internal sources after the attackers compromised the chain via a voice phishing campaign in which a compromised single sign-on code was stolen, allowing the attackers to access internal accounts. A voice phishing campaign is similar to a regular email phishing campaign, except it's done primarily through phone calls. The attackers, anyways, stole some data and tried to extort Panera under the threat of releasing that data, and well, Panera didn't have any interest in negotiating, so the data was released. There are 14 million individual records that belong to about 5.1 million users signed up for Panera's rewards program. Some initial news sources reported that this breach impacted 14 million users, which was almost 3 times the amount it actually impacted, but there was some confusion between accounts and individual records. Most accounts will have more than one record, so the numbers do make more sense in this context. After actually taking a look at the data, I kind of see why Panera maybe didn't have an interest in negotiating to keep it from being released. As in, it's not really all that sensitive. It was mostly just contact information like names, emails, addresses, and phone numbers. Although some of the information included customer emails, some of them were also Panera emails from employees that were also involved in the data breach. The most sensitive information that was there was physical addresses, but this is also just public record, especially when combined with names. You can just look up where someone lives. The biggest thing to be concerned about with this type of leaked data is the fact that it will likely lead to more phishing attacks against the victims. This in itself has a much bigger risk of exposing the victims to much more dangerous types of leaks of information or hacks. With this basic contact information, attackers don't have a lot to go off of, but you can do a lot with little. Attackers could research their victims, find their social media, their LinkedIn, any other accounts linked to their email or phone number, and use that to craft more targeted phishing emails for things like their bank account or even their health insurance. All from a rewards program from a cafe. The Shiny Hunters did a few more attacks rather similar to this one, both against Crunchbase and SoundCloud. It seems like more of these data breaches are occurring all the time, so what can you do to stay safe? As always, be wary of any new emails you see asking for sensitive information, and avoid clicking on links in those emails when possible. If I get an email pertaining to one of my accounts, instead of clicking on the link in the email, I just navigate to the website myself in a separate tab to see if the issue is actually within the account. Another thing you can do, however, is consider making a separate email account for things like app signups that you don't really want to do, because let's face it, there's a lot of app signups that you really don't want to do. I have what is probably considered a lot of email accounts, more than I need for sure. But one of them is a throwaway account that I basically just use when I have to create an account for something, but I really don't want to, like a one-time sign-up thing, an app I'm required to use a product. I only check this email once in a blue moon when I absolutely have to, so my main inbox doesn't get all cluttered with promotional garbage, and I can focus on my actual important emails that are in my main inbox. My accounts that are most important to me are still linked to an email that I check more regularly for sure, but things like rewards programs for different restaurants, or things I feel may be spammy, any campaign emails, those are all under a dummy account, and I'm a lot less likely to get phished because I just don't really check that email unless I am required to fill out some kind of sign-in form. I also have a dummy phone number in the form of Google Voice. If you install the Google Voice app and start using it, it will provide you a secondary phone number that you can use to receive text messages and even calls. The Google Voice number doesn't work for every single account you'll sign up on, sometimes you do need to use your real number, but I often provide that number in cases where I really don't want to be giving people my actual phone number in fear of having many spammy texts. So that phone number is what ends up receiving them. Getting this extra phone number from Google Voice is completely free and relatively low effort. The number does need to have some form of activity, so I'll usually make a text or a call every couple months just to keep the number active, so I don't lose it, but this is relatively low effort, and for me, it's at least been pretty well worth it. Thank you to Bleeping Computer, Tom's Guide, and Security Week for initially reporting on the Panera Bread account data breach. And of course, thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Bite Size Cybercrime. My name is Chloe Tonis, and until next time, stay secure.